Welcome to Wizard Team, a Black magical podcast for Black magical stories.
Hi everyone, it's Robyn, Bayana, and Porshèa, embarking on a journey through the many fantasy stories written by and about Black people. Currently, we're reading Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, and today we are discussing chapters 36 through 38.
But first, previously on Wizard Team, so Bree is still grieving and angry over the session that she had with Patricia and Mariah in which she couldn't connect to her ancestors. She's bringing all of that grief and anger into the trainings for the combat trial, which she sucks at. At the same time, Sel is helping to demonstrate, and she is looking both respectfully and, again, angrily. They see each other. The next day, Patricia tells Bree to stop it, get some help. She can't condone what Bree is doing, and doesn't think that she can help her anymore. And so is basically like, I can refer you to another therapist, but the work that you're doing with the order, I can't really help with that. Which, of course, does not help Bree's emotional state. But she continues to suck at fighting until Sel decides that he still doesn't care about her, but like he kind of does, and gives her a one-on-one session. Before the combat trial, Nick invites Bree to his room to talk after, or not talk, if that's, if she's down for that. And in the combat trial, plot twist, Bree wins 2 of her 3 battles. She only loses to Sydney. She beats Von's ass, and then he gets really sore and, is trash and attacks her from behind. And that is where we left off.
Starting chapter 36, and, well, we leave off in chapter 35 with Bree blacking out after Von loses his shit and attacks her. So in chapter 36, Bree wakes up in the infirmary with Post-it notes on her body from William explaining her injuries. She's got a right clavicle fracture and intra-abdominal bleeding. He tells her about what the healing time should look like without ether, and then tells her to stay put. And she, being Bree, obviously ignores him. Immediately
says, hate that for you, but
yeah.
These rules don't apply to me. This sign can't stop me because I can't read.
She pulls a DW.
She definitely pulls a DW right away. She's like, I have a date with Destiny. Nick invited me to talk after the trial, so I'm gonna go talk. Also,
but then there's a PSS.
In the note, he's like, Nick is not here. And she's like, well, I'm gonna go wait for him in the room.
She's like, I don't know how long ago that you wrote these. So yeah. I'm gonna go see for myself.
I'm gonna go see. So
it's not like you're in the infirmary where William could walk back in and take the Post-it off if it no longer applied. That's not necessarily the thing.
William is also gone. I don't think, does William not stay at the lodge? I don't know.
He might. Scions have spaces. So.
They have spaces.
Yeah, I feel like he might just because like he does have a man. That's true.
So
I mean,
but I could see him staying, especially like I could see that being where he lives, especially since he's
his primary residence.
Call. Yeah. He's their only healer. So
yeah, this is true. But he's not there right now, and so she said, "I'm gonna go see about this boy." Immediately, like reads the note, and then gets up. So she's headed to Nick's room and runs into Sarah, who is talking at a rapid fire speed. And Bree realizes that she has been bonded to Tor and has Tristan's speed. Sarah clarifies, makes a distinction. No, I have Tor's speed. Tor has Tristan's speed, which kind of goes back into the whole Legendborn, Scion Squire roles and all of that stuff. Sarah tells Bree that Nick completely lost it on Vaughn and he was kicked out of the tournament. Haha. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Like, Like,
I
not
mean,
only is
also-
Nick the most like, not only is Nick the most like self-righteous dude like in this whole book, but like he clearly has feelings for Bree. So you think
And that's
like,
yes,
I'm about to get her is what's gonna make you become his squire? Like whether
he wasn't
Bree took the
thinking.
role or not, like you're dumb.
He was
like,
not thinking. Like
Yeah.
he clearly was not, because like you think that you showing all this brute force, because he showed brute force prior to losing to Bree when he lost earlier, so he was already a loser, and he was showing brute force after he lost. So you think all these people watching you think that after you become squire to somebody, they want you to have power on top of your brute force? You really think they're gonna want that? You really think that's like appealing and attractive
like,
to people?
you clearly don't have
Sar
I
even
think
says,
I think specifically of the people that are left. I mean, obviously we don't know that much about Pete except that he has a lion, but like
Right.
William is not gonna. Why would William want Vaughn? You know. And like Nick definitely
Talk
doesn't
about
want
lack of
Nick.
bedside
hilarious.
manner.
So like, come on, like actually think about like dude has no strategy and like it's all
No.
entitlement.
It is all entitlement. So Sar also like mentions this. She goes, Vaughn thinks that being the best combatant made him the best squire for Nick, but it doesn't work like that. It's not just the fighting, it's the match. Because once you're bonded to these people, it reminds Bree that she has access to, like, she's bonded to Tor now, and now she has access to Tor's emotions. She'll always know when Tor is in danger, and they're going to be in sync now and forever. And it's like, goes kind of both ways. And Nick already has a volatile man in his head.
I was right about to say.
Like, why would he want to?
He can't do two. Also, I did just wonder if when you're bonded, like if whoever is bonded to Arthur, if they would also be bonded to the King's Mage. Like if that if that oath carries over. Like I don't think it does. Like I think it's very much like the Merlin is like for Arthur primarily, but I mean more in terms of the like emotional bond part, if that is.
I mean, but I wonder if it does, like, not a complete bond, but because the way that the King's Mage oath works, right? Like, Arthur can feel Sel's bloodlust, and Sel can feel when Nick is in danger. Arthur can feel. Nick can feel Sel's bloodlust, and can feel kind of his like emotional state, and then Sel can feel when Arthur is in danger. So I wonder if, and then on the like the squire can feel when their scion is in danger and can feel
like their
emotions, right? So if Nick is, this is how I feel like it might be like a game of like magical telephone. So like if Nick is feeling Sel's bloodlust, then like his emotions are in turmoil, and then Nick Squire can then feel that Nick is in turmoil and feeling bloodlust, but may not be able to connect that bloodlust is actually Sel's bloodlust.
Specifically from
Yeah, but then you would hope that they would like know each other well enough to be like, oh no, Nick is too self-righteous and good to just have bloodlust, so that must be, you know what I mean? Like you have to kind of parse it, but it's interesting and way too confusing and way too complex, and that's why this spell is stupid. It's a dumb spell. Anyway, so Bree goes on to ask a little bit more about like how it feels to be bonded to Tor, and just like what it's like to also to go back to Vaughn again. Sarah says when she like runs into Bree, she's like, "You're waiting for Nick, aren't you?" And says, "I think you two are a cute couple. Do you want something to drink while you wait?" Like she's like, it's like you guys are a cute couple. Like it's obvious what's going on, right? And then Nick later in this chapter, and like we'll get to it later in this episode, but like Sel says like it's obvious, like what at least what Nick feels for Bree, and then it's like And then Sarah,
they literally were kissing in the driveway.
They sure were. And got
like,
caught.
come on.
Were caught by two loudmouths.
Right.
So
come on. Everybody knows. There's no way nobody knows.
This
There's
is
no
the thing
secret.
is that, like, Sarah also says people are such gossips around here, but it's not a big deal that you're hooking up with Nick. There are some pages who might be jealous. And as you can, like, it's not a big deal because Sarah is hooking up with Tor. Or they're a couple. They're like an actual couple. So Bree goes a little bit more into that.
And as far as they know, Bree is a once born and not
right.
It's not like someone who's a competing bloodline.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
So Tor and Sel have been dating for a couple of years. Before that, I guess Sarah's younger than Tor, but before that, Tor was with Sel to piss off her parents. And I think it's really interesting. It is, but I also think it's very interesting in general that in the order, a Legendborn dating a Merlin is more of a rebellious phase and being in a lesbian relationship. And I wrote in my notes, is that gross? Is that progress? What is that?
I don't think it's anything.
It's bigotry in another form. But
I was gonna say, well, I think it's that. Like, she also, like, when Bree asks, like, why was it a problem? Sarah's like, it's just not done. Like, they don't think of Merlins as
humans.
And also, I guess William did also, they're obsessed with bloodlines, and William did explain how, like, demon blood sort of
takes over,
trumps everything else. And so you definitely wouldn't want a Legendborn dating a Merlin, because then you got the possibility of, because they're so obsessed with reproduction and the lines and whatever, and like, what's a Merlin Legendborn kid supposed to turn out like what is that?
But I guess to me it's always like, I understand that, like, they're a cult and they're obsessed with these things, but it's also like they are still young enough to the point where, like, to me it's like, when their first boyfriend or whatever, and they call it like puppy love, or it's a phase or whatever, and there is no thought of like getting pregnant. Like, that's a completely different thing than just dating for dating's sake. And then it's disturbing to me a little bit that, like, the big objection would be, or like the basis of Legendborns don't date Merlins is because they might have a Legendborn Merlin baby hybrid. Instead of just being like, I guess maybe they're thinking like maybe they fall in love and then it becomes a problem, because you can theoretically meet your soulmate and the person you're supposed to be with, but like, it also doesn't. I wouldn't be surprised if
I don't know if it's that deep.
Have open relationships where it's like, we will be in a relationship but use contraception and birth control, and I will go off and brood myself.
I don't think it's that deep.
Mix. I don't know. I think that's something. I don't think it's that deep.
I think that they're just very, like, conservative and about following rules. That it doesn't matter of like, oh, like, because like, look at how they look at Bree and Nick, like the older people look at Bree and Nick like, oh, of course Nick is the prodigal son and he's coming back and selling his wild oats with this black girl out of nowhere or whatever. They're not accepting, they're only as accepting of Bree as they feel like they need to be in the moment or whatever, for the sake of having Nick back in the fold. But it's not necessarily that they had this like, oh, they look at Nick and be like, oh, this is who's going to settle down with, either, just because she's there. I think it's like just that they are very adamant about rules and like structure and like knowing the right of way, and that was like Nick running away from it all. Tor's rebellious act was, I'm gonna laugh in the face of your rules, ha 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 ha, here's me with Sel. And I don't know that like the adults around them are like, oh my gosh, blasphemy, she's gonna have a child. I think it was more like, that is a big part of like why she shouldn't be with him, but I think it was more of like them just like having a knee-jerk reaction to it without it actually being a thoughtful like, well, use a condom or make sure you're on board. Like, I don't think they really
Yeah, I think it feels like a because I think if they were concerned, they would have just straight up forbidden it.
Yeah, they would have just like
so
kept
like
them apart.
I think it's one of those things where like because of the lines, it's like taboo. But if you're a kid, they're not really like they're not thinking of it in that way, but it stems from that.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's not as like active, I guess, is what
they're not gonna like. Yeah, they're not gonna enforce it unless it gets to a part where they feel like they have to enforce it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, that semi makes sense, but I also just think it's funny that in the lines of bigotry, they're like, by the time she like since her rebellious phase was with Sel, by the time she's like in this like committed relationship with Sarah, they're like, cool, gravy.
But I mean, again, like she's how long do these squires end up lasting for these whenever they go in? Like, you know what I mean? I feel like again, it's not a problem until it is a problem for them. So they're probably again like, how far is this gonna go? Blah blah blah. Young love, we'll see.
Well, my thought process is also that they're like, even if she's with Sarah, like, responsibility, what do they call it? Their honor. I don't know what it's called, but like she will do what's best for the greater good and like go and get pregnant by some like acceptable man, or artificial insemination by some extent. She will have an acceptable ass baby that is like nothing to do with her who she's in a relationship with. But maybe that's just how I think. Anyway, so so Sarah tells Bree a little bit more about her on tour. And then they start to hear loud explosions and flocks of birds fleeing the forest. And then Sarah's like, oh, that's just Sel. He's either drunk after doing the bonding of the tour and Sarah and angry. And then tells her to just like wait until he cools off. And then Bree obviously ignores her. This is a chapter of Bree just not doing what she's told, or just ignoring blatantly. Advised, yeah. Just blatantly ignoring and being like, I do what I want. So this is where logical calm Robyn exits the building. She's no longer here. And here comes shipping where's the shit on AO3 Robyn.
Oh my god.
Screaming in all caps. Are you ready? Okay. So this quote is okay, go ahead. Go for it. You go first.
Oh, I just wanted to point out how hard-headed Bree is in this entire section. She don't listen to nobody.
No.
She's just going off vibes.
Yes.
I'm fine with I'm not I just wanted to point out. And
but she doesn't even know what those vibes are. She doesn't even define what the vibe is.
Like, I just want to do this, and that's what I'm doing. Why are you hiking?
In it. I'm just
injured. You have a broken clavicle and
said,
internal bleeding.
Stay put, and she said no chance.
She said I'm out. Sarah said don't worry about Sel.
I'm gonna go upstairs and wait it out. Like still not staying put, but still keep laying low, keeping calm.
There's a bed in Nick's room.
Exactly.
Right? Now there's a bed in Nick's room. She could just go lay down, but
she's now going off to the woods and following explosions and mini earthquakes, which is the exact opposite of keeping it cool.
On top of the fact that Nick already does, there's something to be said about Nick can't really tell her what to do, but they did have an agreement on.
They both decided that it was the right course of action. But can I do this now?
So it's like three different people she's just disregarding. That's all I needed to say.
She's disregarding her own self. Okay, here we go. Are we
ready? Four different people.
Okay.
Yes.
Here we go. Now imagine me grinning from ear to ear. If you are a baddie, you're watching me grin from ear to ear. Imagine me literally vibrating with feels. Maybe I'm seeking Sel out tonight because last night he stayed behind to help me in italics. Nick told him to stay away. Sarah told me to stay away. And yet there he was, and here I am. We keep crossing paths in all the wrong ways. And I'm just star-crossed lovers, okay? A Legendborn and a Merlin, which we just heard is not done. A Crossroads child and a Bloodcrafter is not done. Black and white. They are looking at each other from the
oh my gosh,
opposite sides of societal divides, and love will conquer all. A bad boy and a hurt and angry child. Emo in different ways. He's got the tattoos. She's got the curly natural hair. Everything about it. Except, I mean, it's the shit AO3 was made for.
I just want to know before we get too far in it, I'm with you, is the fact that, like, she knowingly is like, I could be sitting in Nick's room rooting around his drawers for pajamas that smell like him, but I'm not. And I'm like, girl.
ridiculous.
Girl.
She's ridiculous.
You know how much you are attracted to Sel and how you are seeking him. Like, if Nick were here, you wouldn't be going near him, but because Nick is not around, where do you go?
The thing is she doesn't know, or like, not that she doesn't know. She knows that
he is attractive.
But she does not. She has not quite internalized yet that she is attracted to him.
She hasn't allowed herself to accept.
Yeah, she will not.
I'm just doing this. I'm just doing this. I don't know why. Like, this whole
she's
time,
not accepting it.
She's like, I don't even know why this is distracting to me, girl.
I don't know why I keep smelling him every time he's around. Like, every time he's near, I can't help but to smell his whiskey scent. Like, what is that about? I don't know.
No one will know.
I'm watching him throw trees, and it's amazing because I can't keep my eyes off of his biceps.
You know what it's giving me? It's giving me Captain America, like, ripping apart that log. Yes. Like, you're just like, you're like, yes. Do it again.
But we knew what we were watching, and we knew what was happening inside of us. Bree remained
Bree's just like, she's like, I'm just
we
here
saw
because
Captain,
I understand
we saw
his
Steve
anger
Rogers ripping them trees apart with his bare hands and said, oh,
holding that helicopter. The helicopter.
Yeah, I can't because that was just so ridiculous.
Okay, but Bayana, I do need you to pull that meme for our meme of a Sel this week. It's just like,
I'm writing it down.
Okay, but I also have a problem with this, okay? Because Sel is out here just decimating this forest, tearing apart trees, and like being mad.
I'm hoping that if
feel your feelings,
but
being respectful of the earth, damn it. Like,
like, he's not an earth mage. Like, what are we doing to replenish the trees?
Are you going to replant these trees? And they're huge trees.
Yeah.
They're huge trees.
But in the fact that this is his spot. Like, he's been going here and clearing stuff out. Like, this is where he's been doing it.
I will also say, and I missed it because my headphones cut out, so sorry. So I'm going back a little bit. Just the moment of, like, Sarah telling Bree, like, we see all these moments of, like, them just kind of rolling their eyes, being like, there goes Sel again, you know what I mean? Like, there goes Sel's ass. And, like, don't nobody actually check in on this boy. Like, nobody actually. And, like, yes, he is very ornery and hostile, and I'm sure that he's, like, snapped at them and done, like, you know, some crazy, like, said some crazy shit to them in these moments. But, like, he did also, like, he's been angry, and he just bonded y'all. You're not, like, concerned. Like, he just did y'all this service. And, like, yeah, I guess he's oath bound to do it, but, like, they don't, like, so yeah. I wanted to point that out, and, like,
we see why they give him his space because Bree.
No, and I understand why. That's the thing. It's like it's on both sides. For me, it's on both sides, right? Of, like, yeah, if this dude is pulling up trees and throwing them across the clearing off a cliff, like, yeah, you may be not the person you want to seek out in that moment, but then you don't really, like, see any of them really, like, checking in on him. Maybe William,
but
that's pretty much it. You know what I mean?
I think they leave it. Like, I honestly do think that they just leave it to William, in the same way that, like, they leave all of this stuff on. It's on Sel's plate, and they're like, Sel will handle it, and then they're like, and then William will handle Sel.
Right. And like, Sel's poor Bean is, like, a lonely ass kid, and, like, you know, part of that is on him. He's throwing trees. Like, don't nobody want to be around people throwing trees, but
I think part of it also is like
friends.
William. They're like, they see how he reacts to William, who is the most mild mannered of them all. So they're just like, why would I try? Like, I'm just gonna make myself hot. Sel's already hot. I try to talk him down. He's gonna make me hot about myself, and then we're all mad now. Then everybody mad, and I can't. William has to be the one that does it because I'm not trying to get hot because he's over here being like on one. Like we're not gonna do that. So I can get it, but I also feel like it's interesting. I thought it was, whenever you're saying that, I also was thinking about how much every time someone talked about Sel being angry and alone, Bree had the, oh, is he okay? Yeah. Like reaction.
Everybody else is like, ignore him. And she's like,
yeah. She's like, what is he doing though? Like,
and I also will say that like, Sarah didn't say ignore him forever. She was like, he will calm down. He will come in, slam some doors, and then things will, you know what I mean? And like, if you are inclined to check in on him, I feel like that is what she's like, that's when you do it. Let him rage and Hulk out. Let him go Hulk smash. And then when he comes back in, slam some doors, then you go knock on his door after he's cooled off a little bit. And
maybe he'll knock down some walls for you. You know?
Maybe, but also, this is a YA book, okay?
They're 18, 19. We know what happens.
She's 16.
In close quarters, people visiting bedrooms is what I'm saying.
Point of story.
They're definitely. We saw Russ and Felicity.
We sure did. But the most important part here is that Sel is obviously not an environmentalist because of all of the things.
No.
The big trees, come on now. So whips around and is like, what are you doing here? Go away. She's like, I just, checking on you. And he just goes back to insulting not insulting her, but just like, he's out for blood, okay? He tells Bree that he spied on her therapy session with Patricia, that first session in the Arboretum. And she's like, I can't believe this. He's like, don't come in here. I'm not, I know you in therapy, but you're not a therapist and I'm not trying to be your patient. And she's like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, I don't care about your family drama. And I sure as fuck don't care about someone whose dead mother used ether to grow prettier flowers. Like,
please punch him in the face. Not gonna lie.
He needs it. And then he's just mad at Bree, or he's mad at himself and he's taking it out on Bree. He said, how could I have risked so much for a lost little girl who probably needs as much therapy as I do? And then laughs and goes,
at least he recognizes
nobody needs as much therapy as I do. And I'm like, you know what?
At least he knows.
We stand someone who is self-aware at the very least. He ain't saying he was going to get therapy.
He's like, I could probably talk to somebody about this.
Yeah. He's like, I'm not going to, but I should. I won't.
Okay, but who can he run to when he's in need of therapy? Because exactly. Who can he run to? And there's no elder Merlin who's watching his back or whatever, and he can just go and talk to, and they won't share his info with the freaking order, the regents, and whatever. Like anything he tells to anyone's gonna get spilled and used against him. And Lord Davis will have ammo to get him out of here. So what is he gonna do?
You're not wrong, but what does that have? Why does Bree gotta get?
Yeah, that's facts.
Well,
he's being.
The
salty.
thing is why does she have to catch a stray? But she put herself in a situation.
She sure did.
You can't even now. Why am I in it? This situation because you walked.
You in it because you walked your ass in the forest.
Put
your ass
she's like a weasel that comes up from a hole. Like, girl, you could have been sitting in your little hidey hole. What you doing?
Sitting in Nick's room and
wearing Nick's pajamas.
Yeah.
Come on.
What's that about?
Sel explains more about being a Merlin. The older he gets, the stronger the demon essence becomes, but his oaths keep him from going over and what they call succumbing to the blood. And he talks about how at the same time that Merlin made the blood spell, he also recognized his own essence And like Sel calls it insurance. I call it bullshit. Says as long as we are in service to the order, I'm assuming we are in control of our own souls. It's why they oath us so early, before we're old enough for our own blood to gain a foothold. This is spoiled heavy, so I'm going to go back and say, like, we meet a Cambion in Bloodmarked, and I don't believe that you just succumb to this, like, you become this mindless demon. Like, I just don't believe that without the oath. Like, there are Cambions running around living life. I'm like, yeah, maybe they got a little bit extra, maybe their moral compass is a little bit murkier than what a human would. I'm not even gonna say murkier, because that just centers, their moral compass is different than a human's. And they're socialized a little, you know, they're like, their nature is different, but that doesn't mean that they're like mindless killing machines, or that they cannot control that. We've seen Cambions who have no connection to the order live in these long, very long, healthy lives. Yeah. Like,
and that makes me wonder, and like, obviously we'll get into it a lot more when we get to Bloodmarked, but it makes me wonder if those oaths are like exacerbating the issue. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, sure,
I think they are.
Cambions like succumb to the blood or whatever, but then like without the order, and then others find their ways to live and, you know, do their thing, maybe cause a little chaos, but they're mostly chilling, right? And like, if you're so tightly bound, like, how much of that is your nature or whatever, like overcompensating, or not overcompensating, but like, you know, like trying to really force against that, and so it breaks free in these other ways. And also, just like, we've already seen the way that like the order treats deviants, and so it's them becoming a demon or succumbing to the blood might not actually be that you know what I mean? Like, what does that actually look like? We haven't actually seen what that looks like.
And so I thought so much about this while reading Bloodmarked. I'm going to save a lot of it for when we read Bloodmarked, because it just makes more sense in that context. But one thing it stood out to me in this passage was like, we're oathed, and as long as we are in service, we are in control of our own souls. But you're not in control of your own soul, because you're like standing at knife point with these people saying you're in service to someone else, and they are saying, if you do not serve me, you're going to descend into some sort of madness. And like, how can you possibly be in control of your own soul when you're not even in control of your own day-to-day? You're not in control of, like, do I believe in this fight? Do I think that there's another way that this fight can be fought? You know what I mean? Like, they're old. I think we find out, not in this chapter, but, you know, like, Sel is owed at like 8 years old. Like, you don't even know yourself really at 8. So like, you don't even really know your soul, your intrinsic self, without being owed. Like, it happens so early that, like, and all of the propaganda that goes along with it, and all of the, you know, no, I'm not going to go there. I was going to bring in a real world thing about.
So that's what I was going. The main thought I was having was about, and we get there a little bit, like, towards the end of this episode, we'll get more into, but about, like, we haven't seen the actual, like, action of a out of control Merlin. Like, we don't have any examples. They're like not like famous Merlin, Helga, who did XYZ crimes when she was off on a bender. Like, they don't have any actual examples. So how do you even know? Like, it's all giving like mis and disinformation. It's giving propaganda. It's giving like brainwashing. Like, is this actually true? Or are y'all just like holding this as the like reason why you can like hold madness as a crux over a people? And like you said, with the example of someone who has been able to live for centuries without that being a thing, and I'm like you said, I'm sure it's exacerbated by the oath and all that, but I'm also like, but what how likely is it even to happen anyways? Like, even with an oath, how likely is it to happen? Because you don't have any examples, you cannot point to anyone. And then the person you can point to, you can't really point to, and we're gonna get to her, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not really a good example. And then to your point, Robyn, the real world examples, not only like women, the role of like women, white women, but like people of color, anybody with disabilities over time, how they've been put into asylum, and like now incarceration has been a big portion of that. And then the oathing, before you even know yourself. I've just recently read Beloved again, and I'm reading House of Dice Drear, which is about a family moving into a house that was a stop on Underground
I read
Railroad.
that. That's Virginia Hamilton, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like putting me in that space. So like when they enslaved Black people, like you really had no choice. You could like it Beloved really gave like the viewpoint of like you like people who are able to escape for freedom, that was them actively for the first time in their lives able to make choices about what to do for their own lives. They had no other option. It was just not made available to them. And so it's very fitting that the order, who has those shackles as in a place of like memorial and like a step of like who they are as a people and all the restrictions they have for each other and for the role that they play and all the culty things they do, for Bree's family to be involved the way that it is because of how deeply ingrained holding control over other people is to the order. And it's like, that's what it bothers me so much, that so many of the things that I read, whether they're fictional historical text that go across this or like actual nonfiction historical text, is how much it seems like, to an extent, the perpetrators are like, well, we're not doing you any worse than we've done white people in the past. Like we've did XYZ, but you did do Black people worse. Don't even play that. But then they actually do have like a thing where they're like, I don't treat my kids well, so why would I treat some other people's kids well? And you're like, what is wrong with you? Like this is like equal opportunity does not mean you're equally awful to everyone. Like it actually needs to be like, if you're that awful on your own, then we need to move to like, what is the best that we can be? Like, let's move to that. Let's make that the goal. Let's not make you being awful to everyone be the goal. And I think it's interesting to me, with Tracy Deonn being Black, how much that might have like influenced some thought process behind the order's fault, and how like we can see those restrictions that are coming up in the order being part of societal things that they have a part in enforcing themselves as well. It's like it's like a big circle of like oppression, basically. Like oppression is not just for outsiders, oppression is also for insiders as well.
Well, and so this is my other thought about like the losing or succumbing to the blood, and like the examples that we have of that. Even in Sel's case, it feels like the examples are all, you were not blindly following what the regents want you to do, and that is a sign of insanity. As opposed to owning your own soul, looking at the regents and their behaviors and being like, some of this shit is bad.
Yeah. How dare you critically think?
Most all of this shit is bad.
All of it is bad.
How dare you critically think? In terms of
like Sel or whatever, it's just like, I don't want like, I'm thinking independently, and that independent thought is the
sign
of the proof of madness. And so that's why I'm like, it all smells like bullshit and another vector of control. So then he goes on to talk about just like how the threats that he's getting from Martin Davis, after Nick told his dad what Sel did to Bree, are that like they will kick him out of the order. They will replace him. They will strip him of his oath. And to be stripped of your oath means that you will then descend and lose your humanity forever. So Bree says that she will talk to Nick. She will explain that Sel's instincts were correct, even if he was wrong.
Directed in the right, yeah.
Yeah, and he directed it in the wrong way. His instinct that something was off with Bree was correct, and like that Nick should recognize that. And then Sel is like, Nick will never believe that the means outweigh or that the what is it? That's justify the means.
Means justify the ends.
The ends justify the means, and he'll never. Yeah, and he'll also just like, you know, he talked about this with Vaughn as well. Like, how you do something matters just as much as what you're doing or the why of what you're doing.
Why?
And then in my favorite Sel being Sel moment.
Well, before that though, sorry, I just wanted to point out, like, he does say when Bree's like, I'll talk to Nick about it, he also says like, Nick will be forced to let me go, right? So again, like, they keep talking about, when Nick becomes king, he's gonna really be in charge, and we keep getting, and it'll come up again, like in the, like, I think the next chapter, like, he's not in charge. Like, we keep being like, you know, putting these teenagers in charge. They're not actually. They're, you know, indoctrinating them, and then the regents are the ones actually like, the regents actually are making the decisions. But because they can't fight because they're not within that, like,
age
range or whatever.
It makes Nick sound like Simba, and like, I just can't wait to be king. Like, all the things he's gonna do whenever he's king, and he's not going to worry about all this like riffraff or whatever. And it's like, you actually aren't aware of all the things. Like, why you won't be able to do any of that.
I mean, and it also is like a part of like the brainwashing, because Sel is brainwashed as well, in which he says like, that's what a good king would do. If you do think that I'm succumbing to the blood, like, you have no other choice but to let me go, right? And so she says she's going to talk to Nick, and then Sel does my one of my favorite, or possibly my favorite Sel dramatics in this entire book. He says he doesn't need her help. Maybe he is losing his humanity, but he hasn't lost his dignity. And then he jumps off of the cliff and disappears.
I feel like it's probably your fave because it sounds like something from like a Jane Austen novel, like the dignity.
It sounds like
part, not the jumping off.
Dropping off. It's the dropping off.
Not the jumping.
It's very
the jumping off
like.
The cliff. It sounds like something that would happen on like RuPaul's Drag Race, on like Monty Python.
The jumping off, okay, but like,
so
I won't forgo this for my dignity. Like, that's a very like, I will, like, my pride is over my prejudice. You know what I mean? Like, it's very.
It is that, but it's not that. It's that he says that, and then his dignity makes him jump off a cliff to disappear. The jumping off the cliff as a period, as like an end of sentence mic drop, is the thing.
It's a body drop.
He's
right.
Yeah. He's so like, and I know like Tracy's obviously she's talking about it multiple times. He's so anime coded. Like,
yeah.
It cracks me up.
He knows that Bree can follow him. Like,
exactly, because what is she gonna do?
He literally uses jumping off of the cliff as the period to his sentence. It is the mic drop. No more conversation. I said what I said.
And what would be funny is if Bree actually was so adamant to talk to him, she figured out in the spur of the moment how to use her aether to get down there. That she's like,
I'm
you can run away from me.
Don't run away from the Lord. And that is how that chapter 36 ends, with Sel dropping off a cliff.
It's so funny.
It's so great. It's so great. How are you supposed to reason with this boy?
You can't.
There's no reason.
And like, I'm just saying, like Sarah said, he's having a temper tantrum, and when he is ready, he will come back.
And he's not gonna want to talk to you regardless, but you know,
right. But also, like, you tried to reason with him the whole time that you weren't a demon without telling him why he was on the rights. Like, his alarms were correct, but not correct for what the reasons were. Like, you couldn't talk him down that. Like, he literally had to almost try to kill you for him to realize that you weren't a demon. So where do you think reason actually lies in his brain?
And now he's mad about it because he's like, you were so basic. I can't believe I wasted all this time.
I think that's the thing too, is like, how dare you make me misjudge my own judgment?
Yeah.
Like, am I losing it? Like, I was already, like, you got Nick and his father over here trying to make me question my sanity. And now you got me trying to question my judgment because I really, truly thought you were a demon.
No, not only that, but he's also questioning insanity. He's like, I must have been insane to think that you were a demon when you over here crying about how your mama using ether to grow some flowers. You were in therapy? Your problems are so small and so mundane that a licensed professional can fix them. My problems are based in thousands, centuries of demon hunting and magic.
I was spying on you to see if you had co-conspirators. Lo and behold, this is just a therapist. A regular human therapist.
You can go and seek out a mental health professional. That is how basic you are.
On school grounds, in a public space.
Your problems can be defined in the DSM-5, and I am disgusted with myself for thinking that they were based in demons. I thought you were a Shadowborn. Come to find out, you're just grieving. How lame. I love Sel.
Oh my gosh.
Dramatic.
Drama, for real.
We're so excited to bring you all kinds of nerdy and creative content, but we can't do that without your support.
Becoming a B&C baddie helps us with the general upkeep of our site, upgrade equipment, and invest in the team's creative development.
Go to help out your favorite nerds and stay for cool perks like monthly live streams, behind the scenes, and bonus content, and more. If supporting Black creators sounds like your bag, you can sign up at www.patreon.com/blacknerdscreate. Okay, so chapter 37, Bree runs back to the lodge, which, like, why?
Because he hurt her feelings.
No, yes, but, like,
go hide your face, girl.
She does not care about William at all.
She almost fell off the cliff trying to see if this boy was going to be okay.
Does William's orders mean nothing to her?
Like, obviously not. A hill. She climbed a hill knowing she was healing from internal bleeding, and I'm like, I don't understand. You're like, that is exertion that your body is not prepared for because
and you've been ether healed, but he said a couple days,
right? He didn't say a couple minutes.
He can only do so much.
He didn't say a couple of hours. He said days, girl.
So yeah, so she sneaks back into the lodge. There's still a few folks who are awake in the great room, but she can avoid them. She goes up to Nick's room finally, collapses in a heap on his bed, and just thinking about Sel's words. She's like, I did this just by being here. So she's feeling guilt about, dragging just the whole thing. Before, she was feeling guilty about dragging Nick into it, and now she's feeling guilty about her actions then potentially endangering Sel.
I just think it's a little funny that she's in someone's bedroom thinking about another boy. I mean,
it's true. It's very true. She's triangulating, So then she's also feeling she's feeling guilty, but she's also feeling isolated because there's literally no one to talk to in this situation, right? She can't text Alice about what just happened. She can't text Nick either. And I think he does bring up the fact that, or I think we might have skipped the part where Sel is like, oh, you haven't even told Nick about your ether or whatever. And so she's like, I do want to tell him that, but that needs to happen in person and not over the phone. So it's literally just a moment where she's realizing that she can't tell anyone anything because they don't know everything about what's been going on. And so it's just a moment of feeling really isolated, which sucks because she had a brief moment when she was with Patricia and Mariah of having that kind of space.
Yeah, it's just when compartmentalization comes back to bite you, because you do it, like you may have honorable reasons for why you're compartmentalizing things, and like your and your emotional bandwidth to be able to like deal with multiple different things as long as they occupy certain components of your life. But it does come back to bite you. It's not gonna be an easy road, and it's really interesting to see this pop up for Bree in this moment.
It's also really, just to me, like really sad because Bree is so, yes, compartmentalized, but like alone, and she has been basically since her mom died. And like you said, she had that brief moment with Patricia and Mariah, where she was able to kind of at least see if a world or a future in which she had people who could, like, she could be her full self, unedited version of herself with. But immediately, you know, that's from her own trauma and limitations taken away, or no longer feels like an option. And then with Mariah dumping her, and she took that personally. But it also is, to me, like, we're still only like a week in, I guess, but like
a week and a half. I think we're
week
maybe
and a half
2 weeks now.
But it feels like just this prolonged loneliness as well. Which cannot be good.
Her loneliness is killing her.
And do you know that it's like the 28th or 28th, maybe almost the 30th anniversary of that single dropping, because we are old.
Jeez.
Congratulations. Feel that.
That was middle school, bruvs.
Feel that.
Damn.
Feel it in your bones, okay? Feel it in your sciatica.
No, I feel it all the time. Whenever Ami comes in the car and she just be saying phrases of things, I'm like, what is that? And now she's been taking it. She does the, you're so old. And I'm just like, bro,
that's
are
the
you
person
tell me what it is or not?
A decade younger than me. So imagine how I feel.
I know. And I'm just like, are you going to tell me or no? I'm asking the question. Like,
you gotta
eyes at me, inform me.
The word
you gotta be like, you gotta be like, not, you just can't not, you gotta not care, because it'll just, like, context clues. At some point, I don't get it.
I
if I don't,
old by the 4-year-old too. Every time Junie was trying to
Ooh.
tell me what to do last week, and I was like, sir, I know that you're my sibling, but I'm 29 years old. And he goes, you're pretty old. And I'm like, yeah.
And he was like Kevin Hart. He was like, dang. He's like, dang.
Exactly. And I'm like, yes, exactly. So don't tell me what to do.
Chill
you're
out.
A baby.
Back up.
Have you gotten to the point where he's correcting you on how to read? Because when Ami did that to me, that was when, like, we were about to fight.
No, not yet.
I said, I'm not taking notes. I'm reading to you.
She's like, you don't put it on, they're not putting voices behind it. Where is
no, not even that. She was like, the one time when we were reading some ghostly book, because the girl is, what do you call that? She's morbid. She was like, that says rip. And I said, it's on a gravestone, so it means rest in peace.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
That says rip. But girl, we will fight. I will hit a child and not feel any way about it.
Okay, back to that was a tangent, but anyway, so Bree realizes that she fell asleep on Nick's bed because a loud slam jerks her awake. Here comes Sel back into the house.
But also Sar called it. Sar said
she did. She's like, we know what it is.
Yeah.
I would be so irritated living in a house where somebody gets mad and just starts slamming doors all the time.
And he does it regularly, because didn't he also like slam the door whenever, like, the last time Bree was in the infirmary?
Yeah, and I'm just like, can you?
Slamming... And they put him in, like, the tower, so it's like reverberating all the way down.
And the first thing about it is that he knows he's being disruptive, because he could just fly up to his room. Like, he could just jump into his window. Like, he didn't have to do. Come up.
He's like, I need y'all to know I'm here, and I'm still pissed off.
Like, it's 3:00 in the morning, and he's like that meme of, like, is it Bad Girls Club, where she's like slamming the freaking, like,
I ain't getting no sleep because of y'all. Y'all don't get no sleep because of me. That is literally reality television gold, though. Shout out to her.
That's Sel. That is Sel every time he slams a door.
Yeah. Okay, so Bree is like looking at the clock. It's still gonna be hours before Nick comes back. She's already decided like she's gonna tell him everything. Even about like Rootcraft. And
No. No one said that you could do that.
She's being ridiculous.
She's
Patricia cuts you loose, and then you're ready to cut loose on the freaking
You
like secret
man
about blood
and just decide to tell everybody secret.
Yep.
No.
Yep. So then, like, she's like, but she knows that Sel is right. It won't change how Nick feels about his King's Mage, the boy he's been bonded to for most of his life. And then the wall of ages stretches up in her memory, and she like thinks about their names carved side by side. And then she thinks about Lord Davis's, and like thinking about like, oh, will he remove Sel from the wall, dig out his ceremonial marble and replace it with another? And then she has an epiphany.
Bum, bum, bum.
She goes, aha! I'm about to go defy William's orders yet again. Watch me go.
When you said King's Mage just now, for a minute, I thought you said King Bay. Like
that too.
I was Bay. Like, look at it. She saw their names together and she was like King Bay.
King's Bay. No, because earlier like that when Sel was talking about Nick to Bree at the end of the last chapter, he was for sure jealous.
Mm-hmm.
It was oozing off the page. But anyway, so here goes Bree following Sel up to his room and knocking on the door, like they're friends or whatever. So then, the door opens. She's struck thoughtless because Sel flings the door open wearing nothing but a deeply annoyed expression and a pair of low-slung jeans.
And this is the opposite of Kylo Ren. Like what Kylo Ren thought he was doing, this is what Sel's actually doing.
Oh my gosh. So of course she's checking him out and the tattoos, the whole nine. Sel is like, I told you to go away. And Bree goes, I need to talk to you. Can I come in? Go away is a complete sentence. It's very funny. I love how bold she is because this man definitely threatened you. Mm-hmm. He had you almost off a cliff.
Crying. And insulted your mama.
Insulted your mama.
You're talking.
All types of stuff. And you still are like, I want to talk to you. He's like,
bold enough to eye him while he's half naked.
Come on.
In his own room. Aw.
And so then Bree's like, what you said about the order never stripping a King's Mage of their title, it's not true. Which shocks Sel so much that she can like duck under his arm into his room because again, she's not following nobody's.
No, obviously ignored. That's what should be.
She's organized. Yes. Is that the title?
The title is, and then Bree does the opposite, or
and then no boundaries. Like she does not recognize anybody's boundaries. She's like,
she's just being
no
hard-headed.
Bree disregards, and then Bree disregards.
Literally. So Sel is like leaning against the door and is like, Nick will be home in a couple hours, or Nicholas, because he always says everybody's full name. And if he knows you're here, he'll either punch me again or take my title, or both. So if you have something to share, do it now and quickly. But of course, Bree is very distracted, so she's like, can you please put on a shirt?
This is my favorite, one of my favorite tropes or things that happens in books and movies too. When you barge into someone else's space. But you also like, please put on a shirt. Like, and are offended that you cannot focus.
He just got out the shower. Like, he was in the middle of
please stop being so indecent. And they're like, I'm in my own room, in my own space, minding my own business. No one asked you to be here. You
invited yourself into my domain where I was getting comfortable for myself.
And
I told you to leave. I told you not to come in.
And I disregarded obviously, because I am Bree Matthews, I obviously did the opposite. And now I'm asking you to put on a shirt so I can continue to disregard your feelings. But
maybe the name of this episode is Opposite Day.
Yeah, Bree's Opposite Day.
So then he goes, "Don't tell me
and
you're
yet
prudish."
She persisted.
Come on, literally.
Yeah.
He goes, "Don't tell me you're prudish. How did I ever think you were a Shadowborn? Now I'm truly embarrassed, mortified, really. Perhaps I should resign from my post." And she's just like, "I'm trying to help you, poorly, I imagine." And so then he finally grabs a shirt, puts it on. It's like second skin. It's not helping. She's like, "Damn, I hate this for me."
She's clocking his every muscle,
every single muscle moving,
and she's counting every tattoo. She's like, "Ooh, are those feathers on the back? What's going on? Oh,
what's going on there? Like,
it's gray in the front, but it's black in the back." Like, she's really just like,
she still hasn't quite figured out that she's attracted to this dude. It's hilarious. So then Bree like decides. So she starts from the top. First of all. Which, you know, we just ended that last little section of her like realizing or feeling like she doesn't have anyone to talk to, and because everyone has segmented information, so she's like, "All right, Selwyn, you're the only one here." So she starts from the top. She says, "You weren't the first Merlin I've met, and your mesmer wasn't the first I've resisted," which then gets him less annoyed and more interested. So then she tells him everything, except she doesn't tell. She does protect Patricia from him, so it doesn't say her name or her ancestors, but does tell him about Ruth's memory and like seeing the hooded figure like opening the gate. I guess that was what, like 25 years ago or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so not 25, it had to be more than that. Either
maybe
way.
30,
at least,
but it's when
maybe 30. Well, no, it was 95. So yeah, 25 years ago. Interesting.
I don't like it.
No, that tracks. It tracks. She's 16. It's like 10. It's like 19
it's fine.
Years before she was born.
It's fine. It's just
95 being 25 years ago. It's actually 28 years ago, but at the time of
exactly.
This, at the time of this coming out.
I don't like it.
So then she tells him about the Wall of Ages and seeing how the Silver Surface by Davis's King's Mage was scratched out. And then she goes, "What if you were wrong about a mole, but right about the attacks being organized by someone close to the chapter? What if it was a previous King's Mage who opened the gate 25 years ago, and the Order punished them by removing them from their post? If this King's Mage became unstable away from their oaths, wouldn't it stop them from taking revenge on the Order and anyone else who led to their family being caught, or to their being caught? Sorry. Maybe this Merlin gone bad went after my mother because she was a witness that night, and then they came here to hurt the Order by opening gates again and kidnapping the most valuable scion. After their attempts to take Nick didn't work, they sent Hellfoxes after the current King's Mage to take you out of the picture. If these attacks are all connected, I can find my mom's killer and you can prove your hunches were right. Just call her Scooby-Doo."
I love that every time Bree gets new information, she tries to apply it to what she knows so far. Yeah,
I love that. I love it. Like, the thing is like,
that's learning. That is being a lifelong learner.
There are definitely holes. A lifelong learner. There are definitely holes. Yeah, in the sense of like, not everything quite as they like talk through it. Like Sel is like, "I know what your lies look like. This isn't one of them." And then he's like, "Is this what you and Nicholas are truly up to? Looking for the truth of your mother?" And Bree is like, "Yes." Sel's eyes are so he's just like, he's thinking. He's trying to figure out like, you know, what he thinks about this. But again, there's holes in the logic, partially because she still doesn't know everything about the Order. So we find out that the Order locks up Merlins who succumb to their blood. So before he was just like, "Yeah, we get taken away from our oaths and we succumb," but he didn't say what, like there's a clear punishment. Yeah. So yeah, the second they begin to turn, the Regents put them in a warded prison under guard. and escape is impossible. And then Bree is like, okay, well, if not a King's Mage, could it be the line of Morgaine? But Sel frowns. Too many things don't add up. I'm the sergeant of arms at this chapter, trained to take on this exact post since I was a child. And basically, like, if that happened, if there was an attack, you know, in that kind of magnitude, 25
He
years
would
ago,
know
and that
about it.
information would be shared with him, because that's, you know, it's his job to know these things for the protection of the chapter.
Backing up just slightly, I just want to say he mentions that he knows that it's impossible to escape the prisons because he's seen them, and then in the next chapter we get a clue for why he may have seen the prisons where the Merlins are locked up.
Right. So then he's like, why would Lord Davis and the Master Merlins tell me that the King's Mage had never been removed if it had in fact happened right here? And Davis's own King's Mage is that. And then Bree is like, maybe it's a cover-up. Sel is kind of like, okay, we're reaching a little bit, but it's not impossible, which I think is like, it's very similar to Nick's reaction to Bree at the beginning of the story, when she's like, somebody here killed my mom, and he's like, yeah, I buy it. You know what I mean? Like, okay, well, we can figure it out. Like, nobody is, even though, again, like, Sel is a lot more, I would say, like, meticulous, and like part of it is that obviously Nick hadn't been in the order in a while, and the point of them of Bree infiltrating is so that they could find clues, whereas like in this situation Bree does have some information, but Sel is like, okay, this is clearly not enough, we're gonna have to do better than this. And so he's like, what I don't get is the timing. If we go with your King's Mage theory, why would they go after your mother almost 3 decades later? She wasn't the reason this Merlin was stripped of their title, and she wasn't connected to the chapter in any way. Further, why bother showing up and mesmering you? If they killed your mother, they shouldn't have needed to meet you at all. So again, like, things are sort of starting to add up, but not quite. And I mean, we're gonna learn. We're towards the end of the book, which is crazy to me, but we'll learn pretty soon why, like, it's not. Part of that is because it was all Lord Martin, whatever.
Yeah,
he did it.
It was Agatha.
He's the daddy.
All along, but Agatha is Davis, Dr. Davis.
Yes, exactly.
One thing that I did have, though, question / confusion is, so she said, like, maybe not a King's Mage, but the line of Morgaine. And the line of Morgaine, the way that we understood it, was like they were former Merlins who broke away. So now is it like the idea that like maybe like people who are in the line of Morgaine, so they escaped prison and they're like kind of on the run from the order, hiding from the order or whatever, are having children and bringing them up in the line of Morgaine?
Whenever I read of the line of Morgaine, it sounded like those people who were not imprisoned former Merlins, but literally people who were Merlins, and they're like, I am not about this life, about the order, and they dipped out of their responsibilities as being a Merlin before being caught.
Right, which is what I'm saying. I'm saying so
also is a proof of like what the succumbing to the blood, like how like it's poking more holes into that. Although
well,
I guess they
like but I'm saying like they left before they could get caught. Like they just like dipped out.
But that's so
but it happened so long ago that like it continues because they continue to have kids, but it's like no one has probably been part of an order in a long time because this break off of the line of Morgaine happened such a long time ago.
That was my I understand that part, but what I'm saying is that like are they explaining it to them like the line of Morgaine is obviously just another competing cult? Because like it would be at this point like a child of, or it could just be some old ass Merlin, I guess. Morgaine opening the gates, because like why? I guess my confusion is
I was gonna say I think that Bree is kind of, and I think it also what makes the line of Morgaine still like a little unclear is that I don't think Bree really understands.
They're just like a
again, she
boogeyman.
doesn't really get how they set exactly. So I think when somebody's like, oh, it can't be the Merlins who are within the order, she immediately jumps to, oh, is it the line of Morgaine? You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't really know anything about them. She knows that they're outside of the order and that they don't agree with the order. And she's not like, she's both getting indoctrinated by them and not. Like, it doesn't stick as hard because she didn't grow up in it, but she takes a lot of what she's told at face value. Kind of until she talks to like Patricia and stuff, and Patricia be like, ma'am,
let's redo that. Like, it's not called Aether. It's if you're calling it Aether, you're already having a problem. Let's back
right.
up.
And so like I think that's also part of it though, is she is still, while she's not buying into it in some ways, she does buy into it to an extent.
Well, she's learning it from people that she trusts, but the people that she trusts are grown up in this cult. Yeah,
exactly. So,
but also it's like
they're not intentionally misleading her. They are telling her the truth as they know and believe it to be.
Yeah, but it's also like the line of Morgaine to her is the red herring. Like, it continues to, because she thought for a minute that she said something, is it to Nick or someone else, that she like suspected Sel of being in the line of Morgaine? Like, maybe he's line of Morgaine, and you're like, is everyone line of Morgaine? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Confusing.
So basically Sel pokes all types of holes into her theory. And she's feeling a little, what's the word?
Crestfallen?
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, crestfallen. She's just like, dang, it doesn't work. But then Sel glances at his watch, is like, we have time if we hurry. He speeds to his closet, pulls on his boots, in a blur. And before Bree can say anything, he walks to the window, unlatches it, pushes it open into the night air, and then he's like, come here. Bree stands and walks over, asks why. I'm like, what? So I love that she listens before, like, she listens and asks. I would have been sitting there like,
no.
For what?
To me first before I come over here. But because she did that, he just says reasons, grabs her around the waist in a blink of an eye, tosses her over his shoulder until she's draped over his back, wraps an iron forearm around her thighs, and then jumps out of the window. Or no, so she says, please tell me you're not jumping out of the window right now. He says, please tell me you're not jumping out of the window right now. And then he goes, I'm not jumping out of this window right now. And then he jumps out of the window. That's him jumping out of things twice at the end of each chapter in a row.
Drama.
Okay. Drama.
He knows how to make an exit.
He said, no.
He's like, I may not
everybody heard me slam in, so I gotta sneak out.
He said, I may not have made the most dramatic entrances, but I will make a dramatic exit. Okay? You will remember the end of these chapters.
Dramatic entrance with that door slam. But I think it's funny because it's like, that's his calling card at this point. Like, I'm a jump. Like,
I'm a jump.
I'm a jump.
Out.
Like, this moment is not lost on them about what this looks like. And when they get outside, Bree immediately is like, you're not going to just hang me over your back like a sack of potatoes. And so she and he negotiate, and she's like, I want to be carried piggyback. And he's like, excuse me? And then she said, you heard me. And he starts, like that movie, shut up. And then they call each other churlish and arrogant. And we all know what movie they're referencing because it's Spider Monkey time, and everybody's on it. Everybody knows.
And it's hilarious. I love that she's straight up like, yeah, I know, but we got to get from point A to point B in an hour, so we're gonna do it.
And I would rather be Spider Monkeying than be a sack of potatoes any day.
Right. So. Especially the way that he's like gonna be running. Like, I don't want to be thrown over somebody's shoulder. Like, absolutely not. Piggyback is the way to go. And I like that he's just like, the fact that he has seen the movie is hilarious.
The fact
that they call it a movie instead of like the books is also hilarious because that's how you know they're children.
But also, when she's climbing on his back piggyback, she crushes his Adam's apple with her arm, and he says, I do need to breathe. I am not actually a vampire.
And the fact that we all know.
Yep.
Because we
Everybody
are older than the demographic that this is built for, but also we all know what's happening. Everybody know.
Spider monkey.
I mean, it's what's the word?
Time.
It's steeped into pop culture, so
Yep. And I love that he's practical about it. He also tells her to close her mouth for bugs before he starts running, so she does not get that extra protein powder when she's on this night run. They end up on this street that she recognizes as a place where like university staff and professors probably live. And is at the Davis residence. She's taken aback about him creeping into the house, and he's like, I lived here, I grew up here, so it's like
this is my house, I do what I want.
He's like, I'm inviting you in. Do I have the key? No, I'm picking it up from under the mat, but don't worry about that. Come in the house, I grew up here.
But I know that the key is under the mat, which automatically means I'm in the know.
But also like whenever they're in the house and she's like, why like he first of all, she tries to resist, she tries to hide,
because she's like, this is secret. But she's also like, this is Nick's house, I shouldn't be here without like she's like, this is actually kind of, I know we're already I love how she's like, I'm all here, I'm all good,
girl, you're already violated, so you may as
right
well.
But it's not even that. I think it is different things, right? Like Nick can't tell her what to do in the sense of like who to associate with, and she's already told him about like Sel helping her, so it's like they can have a conversation about that and probably get it wiped away. But I think it's funny that like she's fine with snooping through Lord Davis's stuff, but she draws the line at like entering this like Nick's childhood home without him knowing. She's like, yo, this is actually
right.
I feel like it's a different level like trust, right? Yeah, and I think if he knew the reason why they're snooping through Lord Davis and stuff, he'd be like,
yeah.
I think that's part of the
would have went with him.
He would have gone with him if he was around. Yeah, because it's like she was all good and ready to sneak through his place at the lodge and wear his pajamas.
Right.
But she was invited to his room by him.
No, exactly.
He gave her his key.
That's what I'm saying. She has this like she does realize that she recognizes like a violation almost, or like
yeah.
And Sel's like, it's my house too. It don't matter. Come in the door. So he leaves the door cracked. He's like, I'm gonna leave the door open.
He's like, dude, I don't care about your little like.
I'm gonna leave the door open, and we can just continue.
I'm gonna leave the door open.
Anyway. Okay, Bruno.
Yeah.
Sonic. I also love that. Sorry, we're a little bit past it, but when William said stay put, he definitely wasn't talking about getting up and going to Nick's room. He for sure shit wasn't talking about climbing up and going into the forest and climbing up hills and stuff. For damn sure was not saying piggyback on this man while he runs in some super speed. Her poor inside.
William has an ulcer and he doesn't know why.
Mm-hmm. He said, I need you to take care of my arms. And now he's going to be like, I also need you to take care of my internal abdominal bleeding. Damn.
And like Sel, to his credit, is being like, he understands that she's still like hurt. So he is, even the way that he's like running, she notices that it's like pretty smooth. Like he is being conscious of her, but like of her injuries, but she isn't. And so that's really the problem.
How's everybody around you treating you like you're injured, but you are not? Like, what is that? Anyways, as she finally pokes herself into the door and into the house, she's can't help but continue to feel like she's trespassing because he refuses to turn a light on because he says the neighbors are nosy. So she's creeping around in this dark house. He knows where he's going, so she's just trying to like follow behind him because she does not know the spacing around this. And as they go, they continue their insult rhythm that they've developed between them. So it started banter. they've got it into an
it's
actual
a flirtation at this point.
Well, I don't know if, I think we skipped it a little. Just to go back really quickly. In her hesitation, Bree asks like why they can't just ask Nick and his dad about it, which, ma'am, be serious. But Sel doesn't say because Lord Davis is a lying liar who lies. He says it's because Lord Davis is oathed, but he says he's oathed to the hilt. He's sworn to do the regent's bidding by an oath of service, which is really interesting to me. Like, that's what happens to Legendborn, who I assume the ones who are or aren't awakened, like once they pass their like eligibility period or whatever, they then get oathed to the regents. Like, they're the villains, they're the baddies. So yeah, it's just interesting. And like, and it's not because Sel doesn't think that that Davis wouldn't tell him of his own volition. It's literally like, oh, because he wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah.
Whether he's involved or not.
These people have never known free will.
No.
And again, because they're under a cycle of oppression, they think it's normal to oppress other people as well. They don't see anything wrong with it. Like, they feel like this is the way of the world it's supposed to be. The fact that Bree is so like adamant and like hesitant to investigate what's going on in that house is like he's like putting the answers in front of her and is willing to like take and find the answers with her. Makes Sel just like look at her sideways. He's like, I cannot believe I really thought you were a demon.
And she's like stumbling through the house.
he's like, how did I think you were a demon? And it's so funny because the
night is hella funny.
Yeah, it's so funny because it's like, but also it picks up on whenever Bree was initially annoyed at him because he thought she was a demon, and then the first time he realized she wasn't a demon and he started saying stuff to her, she was like verklempt. One, she was like satisfied that like she's like vindicated, but at the same time he was insulting her about how she could have never been a demon before, and he was dumb to feel that way. She's still in that place. She's still like, I could be demon like. You don't even know. Like, she's still in that petty place, and it's just funny.
But it's also like
their banter is all about that.
Yeah, and like he's making being a demon a bad thing, and then now not being a demon is the thing that she's like getting shit for. And so I know she's just like, you're getting on my nerves, bro.
She's like, I can't win. I really can't win with him. And then that's they're like, so someone's lights flash and they pull up and they hear a garage door open nearby, and as they wait for the car to move, initially Sel had grabbed her on the arm to move her out of the way of the window so the car wouldn't kick up anything. Well, Bree reacts by like a shock gesture, and Sel's like, what is that even about? Like, do you feel something whenever I touch you? And then we come to revelations right after each other. The first revelation is that Bree admits that she feels things since the quarry, and Sel has picked this up. He asked her, like, have you felt something since the quarry? And she's like, yeah, ever since I've been around you, I can feel like these sparks from your eyes, and like I feel things. And he looks like he's curious about it, but he kind of like skips over it a little bit, and they get further in a conversation about like his life with the Davises, and like why he's able to figure out like where everything is located. And he shares details about like the circumstances that led him to be with the Davises. So like whenever his mother was a Merlin, but the story that he was given was that his mother was killed by an Uchel while she was on a mission, and after that his human father fell into a liquor bottle and never came out. And Bree's taken aback about how like matter of fact that he is, and telling her that story because it sounds like something that like you just kind of like repeat after long instances of knowing the story. And then this is all coming as part of the conversation about like Nick's mother being gone, her mother being gone, and then also his mother being gone. And then he mentions that the regents moved him to a school for Merlins in the mountains, but whenever he was oath to Nick, Lord Davis took him in, and he sees Lord Davis as, or Dr. Davis as kind and generous, while his own parents were absent. And then they kind of, Nick and he both kind of got in an attention seeking, competition, jealousy, anger, resentment kind of relationship.
It's just like all three of these kids got mama trauma, and I hate that for them in like very different ways. But like,
It definitely reminds me of like the Disney Channel trope, or I don't know if you guys, because I'm
YA
older than
trope
you,
of nobody having a
nobody
life.
having a mama.
Orphan children, yeah.
Yeah, but like specifically having like their mom be gone, like mama trauma.
Yeah, and like my thing is like it does like play into that a little bit, but I also think like it's clearly very deliberate.
Yeah,
in the sense of like their mothers and their loss of their mothers is where the three of them kind of like
connect. And feel, yeah. And I agree with that, but it's also, to me, like, I love how deliberate that is, but also like the responses to the loss of mothers. Obviously, Nick and Sel lost their mothers at a much earlier age, so they've gotten kind of further along in like the grief portion than Bree is. It's still very raw for Bree, but like there's like this anger, this like disillusionment, and then this like entrenchment in and like feeling thankful for the people that stayed around with like Sel. And I think that also kind of informs like how he's bought into the order and their BS.
Yeah. And then I think too, in terms of just like Nick and Sel, like we saw, or Nick gave his perspective to Bree already about like the situation with his mom, and also just like how that played into how he felt about Selwyn. And so again, like he's saying, like they ended up in this like competition, kind of like vying for praise and like recognition from Davis. And it's just like, y'all, this is just a really fucked up system. Like y'all are like pitting these boys against each other. Like they're both traumatized. They both need that love and space, and they should feel like they should feel like they're in this together, especially if you're like want them to be bonded. But because of this like inherent power dynamic, and then on top of that, they both have this differing traumas and angers, and how those things kind of clash. Like clearly,
but it's also funny because when you hear from Nick's perspective, it doesn't feel like it was the problem was with like fighting for approval with Sel. It was the fact that like Sel's mere presence was just like this constant reminder of the power of the regents, the power of the order, and like the sacrifices that people have to give up in service to him, or what he feels like is in service to him, right? Like his mom gave up her entire memory of him, and now this young boy is like moved into the house and owed to him, and that is what makes Nick uncomfortable. And Sel reads that as like, Daddy Davis was giving me attention, and he's so used to being the center of attention and being praised upon and never having any kind of hardship. That is what caused our issues. And it's like, oh, not only do y'all need individualized therapy, but you also need couples counseling as well. So
they literally just need like
all the therapy,
all of it,
intense therapy.
So they go from the discussion about him and Nick, like and the childhood things, and he's thinking about how deeply he thought Nick was amazing. He was everything that Sel wasn't: bright, open, popular, heroic. He made it all look easy, and so does. So wanted to be close to all of that. And then he sighs softly and says, "That's probably why I fell in love with him." And there goes revelation number 3. And Bree goes, "Oh, I didn't realize. Does he?" And Bree and Sel answers, "I was 13. I'm well over it." No, you're not.
That's the thing. It's like, are you though? Like,
No, and we all
are
know
you
you're not.
though?
No.
We know you're not. We can tell.
You
Like,
don't
and,
act like
and the thing
it.
is like I could
You don't
I
act
could
like
see I could see him having like,
Convinced himself he's over it.
especially because he also has like a lot of like anger and resentment towards him, right? So like it's weird to think that you hate somebody and also still be in love with them. Like that's, and especially you're still like a child, you know what I mean? Like you're a teenager. There are a lot of things going on. Not to mention all
But
the oaths and all that stuff. So like, but
yeah.
even just the way that he reacts, like the way that he wanted to punish Nick, and the way that like, the way that he's just so angry at him for leaving,
Yeah.
right? Like all of that stuff. Like, yeah, you have other reasons for that, but it's also because you felt betrayed, fam. Like here, and now here comes Bree. He's in here with Bree, and she must be a demon because why would he?
He wouldn't
He's
come
What
back
else
for
could
you.
make him
Why
come
would he come
back,
back for
right?
her? Like
He's
you
looking
have
at
to
Bree
have
the
to
way
put
he
her
never
spell.
looked at Sel.
Yeah.
That's
Like
all.
he's
His
it's
heart
coming
broken
out
all
of
over
him.
again.
I also feel like it's like it's like why he doesn't hasn't like because he's not in therapy, he's not examining like we're talking about Bree and how she doesn't examine how, like why she's actually attracted to him. He's not examining like why do I feel all of these very volatile emotions for this one person if I don't like them anymore, if I don't care about them anymore as much. Like you gotta like he's not examining that at all, and it's like the therapy is so necessary.
It's a
Just to
thin
get a conversation
line
out of your brain. Yep, between
love and hate.
Mm-hmm.
I'll stop singing because I can't, but y'all know.
We know.
Y'all know.
And so it continues, and everyone falls in love with Nicholas Bree. It's part of his insufferable charm, which is like, sir, are you trying to make Bree feel like she's not anything special?
Yeah.
I don't think it's that. I think he's trying to downplay.
I know, but he's also saying like everyone falls in love with Nick. Like it's like no one's immune from his charm. He's a charming person.
Yeah, but he loves Bree back, and that's what makes it special.
Right. Yeah, that makes it different.
Yeah,
but I'm saying
absolutely.
So, like it's but it's funny because Nick is such a 13-year-old crush kind of archetype.
Oh
like,
yeah,
I say, like Devon Sawa, like of Casper era Devon Sawa, like very much like that, like the blonde, freaking teen, like not even teen, preteen, like love interest or whatever. And it's just so funny. So it's like it's a basic girl crush, and like everyone is basic girl crushing on Nick. It's just what it is. It's so funny. So Sel says, "There's so much baggage between Nicholas and me. There was never going to be room enough for anything else to grow." So at the same time they're like digging through the paperwork in Lord Davis's office, and Sel gives the paperwork in his hands a scowl. "When I think about the crush now, I remember how much of my life I sacrificed to protect a spoiled brat who didn't even want his crown. And I feel entirely grateful that I moved on to more mature people." And this is how Bree does not. Again, girl, you're attracted to this man. Like Tor, she replies and it just automatically comes out of her mouth. Just
they both jealous. Everybody's jealous.
Yeah, everybody.
You know what I was thinking though is that like I don't know if she's jealous of Tor, but I think she's like.
No, I don't think she's jealous.
There's no way I can be attracted to this man who was once attracted to Tor, and Tor is awful. I think she's trying to wrap her. She's stuck on it because she's like
that, and she's like, trying to figure out who is he attracted to. Yeah, you're attracted to Tor? Like who are you attracted to?
Like what is your type?
You're attracted to Nick and Tor. Like what is that? Is different kinds of people? Like,
exactly.
But not really, but kind of. Like, you know what I mean? And then Sel turns to her, raises a brow, and says, "Among others," which is like, "Why are you in my love life?" Like, ooh, so you've been collecting some stuff about me. Bree feels a confusing mixture of jealousy and curiosity, and wants that swirls in her stomach.
And what, child? She's coming to it. She's slowly getting to
Yeah.
the point where she's like, okay, no, I do. I'm feeling something.
Feel something. Something. I don't. It doesn't mean I have to act on what I'm feeling, but I'm feeling it.
It's felt. So they return back to the work, and Sel asks, "Are there any more personal questions, or shall we get back to looking for a rogue murderous mage?" Bree's ready to shoot come back at him when he goes stiff, and then he says, "This is it." And he whispers, pulling a thick green hanging folder stuffed with paper out of the cabinet. It's stamped confidential with the Regent seal, and it says documentation affidavits about a spate of demon attacks on campus. And it's dated 25 years ago. So they leave immediately after that. And where do they run? To Sel's bedroom. And this time he leaps up the second. Again, he could have did this. He could have did this when he was angry and came back on the second. He could have left up the trellis.
Then how would anyone know that he's angry and that he's home?
And he's back.
The drama king. And then yanks the ledge to propel them into his open window. Once they're inside, he drops on the floor and then spreads the folder open. And then I'm going to read what this testimony is. And this is Sel reading this aloud. And so
it's Bree reading it aloud because he gets to a certain point and he...
Well, he reads. Yeah. He starts reading it.
Oh, he starts reading aloud. Okay, yeah. You're right.
I'll point out when Sel stops.
I want to say this, though, before you go. Because you're talking about how he could have just hopped up the trellis before. That's my man, and I'm going to stick beside him. Okay?
Oh, my God.
He couldn't hop up the trellis before because people needed to know. And they needed to feel his anger. And they needed...
Isn't he a Scorpio? Or is Bree the Scorpio?
He's a Gemini.
That makes... Yep. I remember this conversation.
So then... But I just need y'all to know.
Gemini are right before Cancer, so
he did it for a reason.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. The reason is drama.
Why? The reason is drama.
Yeah. We're not confused about it. It's just like it's his choice. He's gonna act like, oh, I'm like I had no other choice. No, you had a choice. You decided not to. You wanted.
He chose the drama.
You wanted to be dramatic. So April 9th, 1995, confidential and classified. Attention, honored lieges and mage setrals of the High Council of Regents of the Order of the Round Table. I will begin this affidavit without equivocation of any kind. The Southern chapter of the Order of the Round Table has failed in its duties. As requested, this personal report details in linear fashion and form, from my perspective, the events that transpired starting last week and up to today. I will write this with the understanding that the facts herein will be filed for the record in the Order archives. On Friday, March 31st, our Merlin alerted the scions of Wayne and Boers to a partially materialized Sarf Urfern. 2 scions successfully dispatched the serpent as recorded in our logs, and we assumed we would have respite from another crossing. 4 days later, unbeknownst to us, a large gate opened near the mouth of Alfog Edrock. A dozen partially materialized Surf Urfern emerged. Within minutes, I feel like I'm Missy Elliott. Like that's what
because Welsh is rude.
Like if you could have just put the pronunciations beside these words, Tracy, I'm sorry. Within minutes, our Merlin alerted us to their presence, and we dispatched all 6 scions, each with a well-trained squire and our Merlin. We were certain we were capable of destroying the creatures. Our hubris was our mistake. Before we arrived, 6 Yunding had already been eviscerated. The Scion Dindig, the Shadowborn, were coordinated and split up into 3 groups when they detected us, affording them time to grow fully corporeal. In the course of chasing these 3 groups, 8 more Yunandang were killed. So 8 plus 5, that's 13 humans were killed in a dispatch of the Shadowborn that they came into contact with. In all cases, we dispatched the beasts and sent their bodies to dust. But we could not do so with discretion. We worked with the vassal network on campus and off to hide the true nature of the deaths and frame the losses as an accident due to a gas explosion. All families have been paid a settlement from the order coffers via the university legal department. There were 15 surviving Gunendang witnesses. Our Merlin mesmered them with false memories, and we held them here at the lodge. But as you know, mesmered memories must be equal weight to the originals. The shock and graphic nature of these attacks prevented the mesmer from taking hold. Too late, we realized we needed the regent's assistance.
Like, sorry, knowing what we know about the truth of this, I hate this man.
I hate him so much.
He is like
diabolical.
Yes, but it's like if you open
like,
the dictionary for white audacity. I don't even know if that's in the dictionary. It's two separate words.
Caucasity.
To caucasity. This man it's not even just his picture, he's smiling.
It's a profile. It's like
proud.
If you do you want to exact a profile of caucasity? Here you go.
Here you go. He is just lying.
He's lying with a plum. Like he's lying confidently and with a plum.
But also, and he's like but he's also telling the truth in the sense of like, that's probably what happened to those once born folks. But like, y'all are ridiculous. Like you're the reason for this is really like the point. Is like you did this.
You wanted the Scions to be alerted because you wanted them to all freaking go through abatement and all that. Mm-hmm. But like, okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Anyways, let's finish this affidavit. With the help of the regents attending Merlin's, the witnesses were successfully mesmered and released. Each witness has a file attached here with further details regarding their management. As tragic as this account is, I'm afraid that I must add further unsavory details to complete the record. The regents, members, and Merlins, in their wisdom and due right, proceeded immediately with an investigation into the incident, its origins, and the chapter's responses. Our actions and failings, as described here, were recorded by the committee. However, in the course of the subsequent investigation, new information has come to light and devastated our chapter. It was discovered that our Merlin and Kingsmage and this is where Sel stops reading abruptly, his face stricken. Bree asks, "What is it?" He scans the letter again, and blood drains from his face. Selwyn. Bree reaches for the paper, and he doesn't resist when she slips it from his slack fingers. The mixture of horror and shock is contorting his face and marring his beautiful, precise features. This all sends a cold blade into Bree's heart. "Read it." His voice scrapes the quiet of the room. "Maybe read it, Bree," he repeats, a fierce command threaded through his words. And she does. She reads the story of his mother. It was discovered that our Merlin and Kingsmage, Natasha Kane, opened the gates herself using an arcane ritual and Sezdendeg blood she procured specifically because of its strength and ability to open the gates of that size. Now, why do you know all of that? Anyways, Kingsmage Kane gave no reason for her abominable behavior and denied the investigation's findings at every turn because she was innocent. In hindsight, perhaps we should have considered the possibility of Natasha's involvement in the moment the first gate was opened. It is well documented that the more power Merlins command, the more they succumb to their unnatural, demonic nature. Natasha is the product of careful Merlin bloodline curation, and she's the most powerful sorceress in a generation. But we were swayed by her gifts and did not expect her corruption to manifest so early. In the weeks leading up to the attack, Natasha had been consumed by an obsession with the sun Zendig. She'd been so certain that a Grotchel had crossed over that she had become paranoid, unreasonable, and even suspicious of her own chapter's members, which was very reasonable.
It was not that it was reasonable, but
she was right.
Doing the same thing with Sel right now.
Yeah. He said it worked once.
He was right, but also he's
setting up Sel the same way he set up his mother.
The same way he set up his mom. Yeah. I do also want to say too, like, it's interesting because like the framing of Lord Davis, like obviously we see like Nick has his complicated relationship with him or whatever, and we see we see him and like how he talks and all that stuff, and he's irritating. But when people talk about him, they all talk about him in a relatively like favorable light, right? Like even Sel like calls him a bully, but then when he thinks about his childhood, he has favorable like memories about him, right? Like everyone thinks that he is doing the best that he can under the circumstances that he's under. You know what I mean? Like nobody is thinking of him as like this diabolical dude. They're like, no, he's pretty reasonable, like within the confines of like as reasonable as you can be as like the former scion of Arthur in this like situation. Like he's a pretty, you know, he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's oathed to the regents and all these
and
things.
they're kind of right,
and
because
then,
he is like a megalomaniac and he's a narcissist, and like I like how many lines of like what are they, inbred freaking power hungry cultist can you have before one of them flips the switch and does all this?
I mean, right, but it's also just the sense of like he's trusted. Like even Bree is like, oh well, why don't we just talk to him? You know what I mean? Like they're not, nobody is reading this. Like when they finish reading this, they're not like, oh,
It was
something's
him
up.
all
They're
along,
like,
yeah.
no, this is legitimately what happened. Like
Yeah.
he has all of that trust and like goodwill. And that's
and he
how
uses it for ill.
Exactly. He's like cloaked himself in it so that he can do the things he wants to do for his
And
personal.
he's only able
Because
to
before,
do
when
it
he did that, he did it to awaken himself, and now he's
Yeah.
trying to do it to awaken Nick. So,
and it didn't work when it was for him, because this incident happened before it could actually start happening. And then I think it's interesting that like it sounds like Natasha was investigating. She was doing her best to like investigate. And I wonder how close she got to figuring out that it was him before she was framed.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
So the usual sentence for treason of this magnitude and intentional exposure resulting in deaths is forcible elimination. In truth, even the regents are not certain that elimination is possible due to Natasha's unusually strong affinity for ether. As such, Natasha has been secured in one of the regent's most heavily warded prisons. Regent Ross has informed me that the loss of her bloodline would be a blow to our efforts against the Sensendang, and in the event that her stability returns under rehabilitation, the regents will consider offering temporary probation so that she may bear an heir. Any child she produces will need to be oathed early and raised under close supervision.
That's freaking disgusting.
It is
so
oh, we can
It's
breed
horrible.
her. We have to breed her.
We have to breed her because we don't want to lose the magical ability, whatever.
We think she has mental health issues, but we also want to make sure that we breed her because of
she's
other
powerful.
All the breeding we did to make her available, we want to make sure that continues on.
Yeah. Ugh.
It is awful.
And then on top of that, we're breeding her to a kid to create a kid that we need to oath immediately.
Who will be considered a criminal and a threat from birth,
from inception. Yeah. And also, like, we're like, this is all again, and the oppressive system is like, this is just the way of the wills. Like this is how things have to go. She is a human who has been bred across bloodline, and so we're gonna just breed her out like she's an animal because we, that's what we do.
That's how we do. They are the baddies. In case y'all confused. It's F the Regent forever.
Yes. On a personal note, this is where it gets like, this is where I just like, I straight up like, I hate all of this, but on this I'm like, oh, F this man forever. On a personal note, I would like to state for the record that I've known Natasha most of my life. I am not sure what it says that I, her charge, did not sense her intentions. Perhaps she hid them from me to protect me as best she could. I offer this possibility in perspective and in hopes that it will support her fair treatment while in order custody.
No, because she grew up with him in the same way that Sel and Nick grew up together, and then was like, I'm trying to become Arthur. If this goes wrong, I'm about to frame like my childhood friend. Or,
the person owes to protect me.
The person who was feeling the fluctuations of you like sneaking around doing this whole thing, but he wasn't sure what it was, and then you spring it all on her and she gets hit with it. She has no defense, and you know it.
Ugh.
Because you're using freaking stereotypes about her freaking personality, her, oh goodness gracious. Anyways, The Regents requested that I write this report so that it may serve as a reminder to others of the line. They have asked me to state for the record that while the Merlins Aether abilities hold the keys to our Order's mission, their Cambion blood affliction requires constant vigilance. Merlin Isaac Sorensen has agreed to take on our open Kingsmage post. The Regents have advised that all records of Natasha Kane be expunged. They've also agreed, by our request, that the other chapters remain ignorant of the culprit behind the incidents. Everybody's ignorant because you're the freaking culprit. Lest the report generate strife and distrust within our order. Y'all deserve it. Yours in the lines, you Papa Sable, Martin Davis, scion of Arthur. Addendum 1, 5 years from the incident, so 2000. Natasha Kane has exhibited several years of stability. She will be released under probation and monitoring. Addendum 2, 12 years after the incident, so 2002. Natasha Kane has exhibited a relapse of blood symptoms. Convenient. The High Council Regents has taken action to remove her from service and return her to containment. Her young son, the Convenience, will be admitted to a residential Merlin Academy in Asheville, North Carolina, and monitored by the Masters on faculty. There is some hope that under their close supervision, he can be groomed as the next Kingsmage for the line of Arthur and bonded to my own son, Nicholas.
Ugh. So he was 6 and he was there for 2 years and then became bonded to Nick. That's honestly disgusting. We have not talked about... It's gross. It makes me mad, but it is something I want to bring up now, but maybe we can talk about it more when we discuss Bloodmarked. Is that there's this theory that Erebus is Sel's dad, like real dad, and like him and Natasha had stuff going on. And even if he isn't his real dad, there's still a theory that they were like working together. It's on Tumblr. It's great stuff. So it just made me think about like with the addendums or whatever, like what was the thing that made her feel like she had a relapse, like where, you know what I mean? Because we're very clear that like this was a framing, and they assumed that they like decided she had succumbed to her blood and locked her up, but then when they set her free, what was the thing that made them be like, oh nah, I
also think about the fact that like it was the convenience of like Sel was 6 whenever they imprisoned her again. And that's about the time and age range you're supposed to like show signs of having like Merlin abilities. So they just like gave her enough time to be with him for them to be like, oh, like to be secure in the fact that like he did like actually gain the Merlin abilities from her bloodline, and then they were like, okay, you can go back now.
Yeah. So I was struck with when you hear Sel talk about Nick and Nick's reaction to losing his mother, it's very much like she made a choice. She, knew what she was doing. And the idea of Nick being upset with the Regents to Sel, who at this point thinks that his mother was killed in service or whatever, seems very like a spoiled reaction, like a brat, and kind of a get over it type of sentiment coming from Sel, but he doesn't understand that feeling of betrayal. And so like now he's now grappling with kind of that feeling, right? Like of your mother being taken from you on the whims of these like people. And it's like kind
them being taken from you, but then also with the like, I think also, he has no reason to disbelieve Lord Davis in this situation, right? So there's also the sense of her, right, and that she succumbed to her blood. So then that also
reinforces his fear.
Then can send him in another exactly, and like it can send him into like a spiral of like, oh shit, I'm kind of following the same pattern at this point.
Yeah. It's so,
and also the fact that like he knew Lord Nicholas wasn't having idle threats when he kept threatening him with that, but the fact that he's done it before and he's like, I can do it again and get away.
Literally,
nothing you can say or do will keep me from putting you where I want you to be. And that's what makes me hate. So we end the chapter with Bree looking up from reading this. Sel is visibly upset, and Bree thinks to herself, there's no way she could ever have imagined such a horrible truth. And I put truth with quotes because we know it's false. We know the real villain of it all is Dr. Davis and the supreme a-hole. And the fact that like it's so, and you know, clearly my bench before we even get there, but I really can't with him. And the fact that he is as pompous, because like the wording, he didn't have to do all that wording, he didn't have to do all that, like, for my son Nicholas, yours in the line, like our, you know, all of that. And he was that pompous at like, what was he, like 8, like 19? He was not who he like has always been who he is. And that is just ridiculous. Like these quoting thing didn't come from like, oh, he got into college and decided he was just gonna be like a lit major all over the place. No, he's been as a pompous a-hole his whole life, at least his whole adult life. And again, I think this comes from him being like shaped to think he was the pinnacle of everything and nothing he could do is wrong, even though he knows he's wrong, because why else frame Nastasia? He couldn't even own it. Like he could not even own to the regents, like, I did this because I was trying
because
to.
he feels like he doesn't have a chance.
And it worked, and like it almost worked.
That he's entitled to do it. Almost worked. And I think also he feels like that's his right.
Yeah, I feel like he thinks it's his right because it's his king mage. Like it's a level of ownership. It's my king's mage. I can get another one if I want to. I don't have to be with the one I got when I was young.
And like I'm the scion of Arthur. This is my birthright. Yeah, Rose trash. Who's your MVP?
Should I go first? I'm the only opposite, or okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I said Bree mostly because she wildin' and it's hilarious. I feel like some of my favorite chapters are when she's just doing the stuff that she knows she shouldn't be doing, and she's just like, it's fine, I'm doing it anyway. And, you know, that's how you get answers apparently. So good for her.
I also made Bree my MVP mostly because I feel like these are some chapters of like just BS back to back to back. And I feel like it's interesting that just when she learns Sel's childhood story, she gets another version of what happened to his mother or whatever, after just having learned what they both thought originally had happened to his mother. And she automatically is horrified. And it's not like something that she's like as much as she's been talking about like picking up on how other people talk about like demons and stuff and been saying Crossroads child and stuff to Sel, she doesn't automatically just like use that as something to like stereotype or discriminate against them. She is like just horrified at the fact that like he just had to learn this about his mother, and she could just like never imagine this to be what is like. She was being curious about what happened to her mother, and here she comes falling on a landmine about someone else's mother who is helping her try to find out about her. You know what I mean? I think that I like that her personality was that she felt the chagrin for putting them both in a situation in a way, but also like this is information that neither of them could have ever thought would have come from them trying to investigate. So the level of ownership there, I appreciate that she feels a level of ownership there.
Yeah. And I said Sel for basically the same reasons that Bayana said Bree. He wowing, and he's so dramatic. And how many times can you jump off a cliff or jump off of a high point to like
as many as he wants
in the conversation?
As many as he wants. That's all in the same night.
It's just yes.
It's as many times as he wants to. He can climb and freeze and watch competition.
I am magnetically pulled to Brianna that the only way I can end this conversation is to jump
Just
off
jumping
of the
off.
high. Off of the high.
Oh my god.
Wait, he said, "I will bring the drama. I will be a tattooed, soft emo sad boy, BOI sad boy, in all black, jumping off of high places."
Who also will not let a fun joke about Twilight just pass me by.
Pass it
I
by.
will talk
He
about
said,
it.
"I have the angst that you're looking for, the humor that you're looking for, the tragic backstory that you're looking for. I am self-aware enough to know that I need therapy, and also self-aware enough to know that I'm not going to get fucking therapy, and you're just going to have to deal with the tantrums, okay?" He has the entire lodge on high, fell out there, eat their drunk, and he'll be in when he be in. Oh, where's Sel? Probably up in a tree somewhere. Let's wait until William gets back so he can deal with them.
It's not even probably. It's because you hear that ka-thunk. You know where he is. We know where he is.
I love it. I love it. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. All right, who did we binge?
I think it's unanimous.
It
is
is,
unanimous.
but I want to say mine is slightly like I did Lord Davis because he's the reason why we're in this mess, but largely the Regents because Lord Davis he's small fish, honestly. Like he's not even the main bad. Like I feel like we haven't met any of the Regents yet, and so we just keep getting these like moments or like seeing the way the order works and like who's in charge and how, you know, how they've set this up so that folks just kind of follow their line, you know, their rules or whatever. And so even like all the stuff Lord Davis has done,
You wouldn't be able to get away with it if it weren't for.
But yeah, it like it's also the way that he's been built up that makes him feel entitled to cause all of this like chaos and violence and like terribleness in the first place. So both of them.
I think it's also very fitting that we picked up doing the season on this story after we'd all read Bloodmarked, because I think it makes us better capable of like the nuance between the Regents and him, and Dr. Davis. I love to poke at the systems and the Regents when I can, but I'm like, for now, I'm like, because like the way Dr. Davis really he's been sitting on this file in his office the whole time he was harboring this child and making it where this child felt like he had to be in competition with his son that he was never going to be able to win, you know? And he told him a false story that he did not care if he ever learned the answer to, like he held the information from him, but like that wasn't like it wasn't like there was a spell or something that kept him from going into his office. He really does not, it was not that highly guarded in regards to Sel. And then it's also using the same machinations he used to put Sel's mother away against Sel. Like he's just such utter complete garbage that I have to dignify him with like, you take the whole L. You take up the whole bench. It's you.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you, Bayana, about also benching the Regents, but I think the reason why I benched Daddy Davis by himself is also because he, even at that young age, where he might be a little bit older than Nick is now when we get the first part of this report. It's like he knows how to play the Regents as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so he's taken like their evil and just played all the right notes, said the right words, did the right things, played up their prejudices, played up their just played the system to his own advantage, and we're gonna see him continue to do so. And if he wouldn't have gotten caught, like if Bree wouldn't have stepped on the scene and actually been Arthur, like there's a good chance he would have continued his nonsense. And so I think that's why just in this set of chapters, I felt like he stood alone, because the Regents are trash as well. They'll never be MVP. They're always on the
No.
bench or bench adjacent. You know what I mean? I'm never whatever, but it's like you got to be a special level of trash to play trash against itself. You know, it's just
Yeah,
so.
that's real.
But I agree with everything else. I agree with what you said. I just like he just took it to another level in these.
Mm-hmm.
So, whew.
What an episode! What the revelations! We are getting closer and closer to the end, and we are enjoying having this conversation among ourselves and with everyone else who's listening. So thank you for listening to us, and be sure to join us next week when we discuss chapters 39 through 41 and go through so much more.
Wizard Team is a part of the Black Nerds Create Collective. If you want to keep up with our content, you can check out our website at blacknerdscreate.com. Follow us on Instagram and Tumblr at Wizard Team Pod and at Black Nerds Create. Especially go over to Instagram and give us a like and a follow because Bayana and Porshèa have really just been showing out with SSF Fall and all of these reels and the ways they're doing the little thingies. They just really unlock social media in the best of ways. And I'm just here. I send a picture every once in a while. You know, okay. I got Luna on the grid. That's all that mattered to me.
You did get Luna on the grid.
I did. Thank you. All right.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.